it turned out all the pardons and all the rest of the stuff and all the lunacy that's going on, and the refusal to accept Biden, even though you've had the Electoral College vote and decide that he's the president elect. He had the most bizarre meeting, Donald Trump, in the White House with Sidney Powell, his chief of staff, loads of other people that are coming forward. It seemed like it was almost like a conspiracy, some sort of weird conspiracy nutcase meeting. It's like some convention for nutters that he held, and maybe we can have a look at what transpired.
All right, now to that extraordinary rebuke from top military leaders pushing back against the talk of imposing martial law that's reportedly swirling inside the Trump White House. The Secretary of the Army and the Army Chief of Staff having to release a joint statement saying in part, quote, there is no role for the U.S. military in determining the outcome of an American election. It is remarkable that military officials are even having to say this, but that is the response after multiple reports. Trump asked about the option on Friday during an Oval Office meeting about overturning the election. Trump says the reporting is wrong. One person attending Friday's meeting was Trump's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn. Now, the day before that meeting, this is what Flynn said. Watch.
He could immediately, on his order, seize every single one of these machines around the country on his order. Within the swing states, if he wanted to, he could take military capabilities and basically rerun an election in each of those states. I mean, it's not unprecedented. I mean, these people out there talking about martial law, it's like it's something that we've never done. Martial law has been instituted 64 times.
That is a former U.S. general calling for martial law to rerun an election in this country. Joining me now is retired Army General Barry McCaffrey, a former National Security Council member. Thank you so much, General McCaffrey, for joining us. I'm curious to get your thoughts, first of all. How alarming do you find this talk of martial law?
We've never heard anything like it since 1860. I was personally horrified watching Mike Flynn, who was a terrific intelligence officer during the War on Terror, who now acting in a demented fashion, seizing ballot boxes, the armed forces in charge of unilaterally conducting elections in swing states. This is thuggery. This is third world behavior. By the way, the armed forces will never in any way take part. But what we don't want to do is find out what happens when the commander-in-chief tells the acting Secretary of Defense to pull something like this off. So I think what we get back to is the responsibility of Republican senators in particular is going to be heavy in history if they don't go to the president in public and back him down from this criminal conversation.
General, what do you think is the thinking right now among top military officials? I understand your point about they will never do this, but at the end of the day, what happens when given the order, as you mentioned, because they will be given the order and they will be then tormented between following an order they may think is illegal and having to resign. So what do you think they're thinking?
Well, there'll be no torment whatsoever. If they get an order that is clearly illegal, they have lawyers, both military and civilian, who will rule on it. This would be patently unconstitutional. They simply won't do it. But then the question becomes, will the Congress get engaged? Will the Supreme Court get engaged? Will Trump start firing generals until he finds somebody that would move?
Right.
By the way, I might add, that acting Secretary of Defense, a retired lieutenant colonel, will bear a heavy responsibility. The chairman of the JCS has no command authority over the armed forces. Two civilians do, Trump and Kris Miller. So we need the Senate, Republicans in particular, to step up, and not in private, but in public, and say, we're not going there with you.
It reminds me, Mike, of Argentina in the 70s.
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
It could
exactly
be
the
horrific.
Same. And this meeting apparently was, you had Sidney Powell, you had a load of conspiracy theory nutcases who've been helping helping him conspire with all these court cases, which, you know, he's lost 60 court cases. You know, how much money has been wasted on that? But it's not his money, is it? Because morons have been sending him money to do this, and he's pocketed some of it and spent a little bit on these token court cases, so it looks like he's doing something, even though he knows he's going to lose. But they had a meeting there, and Mark Meadows is the chief of staff, and he is the most conservative guy. You look into what he's done over the years, you'll find quotes off him. He's everything that a proper hard right conservative would be. And he was the voice of reason in that room, and all the cases of all the reports of this that have leaked out are all the same, so I do believe it. And he was begging them not to go down this route. He was saying, if you do this, you're going to destroy this country, you're going to cause that many problems, you'll go down in history and be demonized. Whereas if you just walk away now, you'll still have certain people that really worship you, think you're the best thing ever. I mean, even that guy, Greg Kelly off Newsmax, he describes him as this once-in-a-generation leader, you know, like, it's really bizarre. But there are people who think that. So if he does walk away now and go, right, well, it was rigged, I've give up, though, I've had to concede, then at least he walk away with that. If he tries this and it fails, he's going to end up in jail. And I mean, he might end up in jail anyway because of the tax stuff, but he will definitely end up in jail if he's at the wrong end of a failed coup, because they're not going to go along with it. I don't believe the American armed forces are going to go along with this. The guy lost an election.
Have they?
Yeah, and I don't believe they would. No, I have to believe that. And I think most Americans believe that. You can't believe you're in a country where someone can win an election by 8 million popular votes, and then the other guy tells the army to overturn it. Thank you for watching. I'm impressed. You've passed the IQ test and got this far, so let's press that button to do the last thing that helps us. It's got subscribe on it, you can't miss it, and please ring the bell for notifications of future videos.